Every classroom has been equipped with a 5-gallon bucket full of Riverstone. If an armed intruder attempts to gain entrance to any of our classrooms, they will face a classroom full of students armed with rocks, and they will be stoned.
It's Friday, March 23rd, 2018. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week I talk to our Capitol muckraker-in-chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. Yep, we made it through another March nor'easter, folks. Yep, we actually made it through. And this week, we're actually recording. On today's show, Cambridge Analytica whistleblower Christopher Wiley gives us a window into the political persuasion industry and the way Steve Bannon and right-wing billionaire Roger Mercer weaponized data. Hidden cameras capture Cambridge Analytica's CEO Alexander Nix boasting about using prostitutes, bribery sting operations, and honey traps to discredit politicians. Following what seemed like an endless silence, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg apologizes for what he calls mistakes made when it comes to sharing third-party data, I'll say. And as the Washington Post began reporting this week, Facebook was certainly not alone. And David Remnick of The New Yorker says the case amounts to a moral reckoning in Silicon Valley. And last night, in related news, I guess, the Daily Beast broke the news that Guccifer 2.0 was traced back to a Russian intelligence officer. That is, Guccifer was exposed after the officer forgot to turn on the VPN client before logging on. So there you go. More chaos in the White House as Trump boots National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster and brings in the Warhawk John Bolton. John Bolton has openly advocated for war against Iran and North Korea, even first strikes. The former, quote, UN ambassador, you have to put that in quotes, under George W. Bush, he was put in there as a recess appointment. But he was famous for saying, and this is a quote, there is no such thing as the United Nations. And if the UN Secretariat building in New York lost 10 stories, it wouldn't make a lot of difference. That was UN ambassador. Oh my God. This week, Trump's lead lawyer in the Special Counsel Inquiry, John Dowd, resigned after reported disagreement on strategy. Trump turns once again to Fox News for his replacement. He named the conspiracy-pushing pundit Joseph diGenova, and apparently his Clinton-uranium-mine-conspiracy advocate wife, Victoria Toensing, to join legal televangelist Jay Sekulow to round out his legal team. So just put that in mind. He's got an entire, online TV kind of right-wing media team running his legal case. I just blows my mind. Oh, yeah, and John Bolton worked for Fox News, too, of course. And this just in. Apparently, Trump is threatening to veto the spending bill because no money for his big, beautiful wall. I told you guys, there's no money for my wall. There's no money for you. Let's not forget about Illinois' Nazi, Arthur Jones, is now a congressional candidate for the Republican Party. And that's after more than 20,000 Illinois Republicans voted for this open Nazi.
Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis.
Somehow saying, I just voted straight party ticket in this case really doesn't cut it when it comes to voting for an actual Nazi. And tomorrow, March 24th, is the gun control action March for Our Lives in D.C. and cities around the country. The D.C. march will be spearheaded by the students from Parkland, Florida. Meanwhile, in my backyard, Pembridge High School students face the second of 6 rounds of detention this Saturday morning. Last weekend, supporters showed up ahead of the detentions in support of the students who joined the National Student Walkout on March 14th. And the NRA also showed up. More solidarity actions are expected this weekend, but there are also concerns that the national attention received by the Pembridge students will draw greater numbers of right-wing extremists. In Pennsylvania, state GOP caught canvassing at a gun rally put on by, 3%ers, Oath Keepers, and the Pennsylvania Lightfoot Militia. If you need a refresher, those are the groups that provided security for white nationalists and racists in Charlottesville, Virginia. And signs that the grassroots resistance that emerged following the 2016 election is firmly rooted in PA, 94 candidates filed petitions for Pennsylvania's congressional primary. That's the most in about 25 years. Dush, and 10 other Republicans introduced articles of impeachment against Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices over their gerrymandering decision. That's after they were basically rebuffed by the U.S. Supreme Court, but whatever. It's going to go forward. Gubernatorial candidate Senator Wagner is fully on board. And Greg Edwards, running in the new Pennsylvania 7th, that's the Lehigh Valley, he picks up 2 more big endorsements. Democracy for America and 350 Action are now back in its campaign as well. And as you heard in today's intro, oh my God, the superintendent of Blue Mountain Schools is deploying buckets of river stones in every classroom so students can stone attackers. Go on, Timmy, just like David did with Goliath. It puts a whole new spin on getting stoned, I guess. Whatever. In today's last call, we got Pizza Boy putting out a 6-pack called Get a Grip, and Free Will is teasing a huge canning project and an upcoming Mojito Sour. Oh man, the 5th of May Mojito Sour, the 5th of May last year, and the Mojito Sours that they came out with last year were unbelievable. They're putting some fresh mint in this week. Well, that's about it for the fun half. For the fun half, listen to me, thinking I'm the majority report or something. For the last call, because we're just buried under feet and feet of snow. Maybe we'll talk a little about that. I want to remind everybody, turn into the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can also tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. If you missed the show, just go to the ricksmithshow.com and click on the Free Speech TV icon in the sidebar, or go to freespeech.org, and all the shows are archived right there. If you like what you hear, you like what you read, well, we want you to support Pull No Punches Progressive Media. Become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. Not ready to become a member? No problem. You can make a one-time donation by going to ragingchickenpress.org and click on the Support and Membership tab. Click Donate and you'll be good to go. But really, membership is where it's at, folks. Become a member. Patreon.com/rcpress. As little as $5 a month. Seriously. The only way we're going to win this, folks, is when we invest in our own media. Keep the media in the movement and the movement in the media. Go to patreon.com/rcpress and become a member today. So, Sean, man, how much snow did you guys get out there?
Oh, we had about like 8 to 10 inches, but it's pretty much all gone now.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's melting pretty fast.
Yeah, it's melting pretty fast here too as well. But man, we got tons. I mean, they said we were going to get maybe up to a foot, and we got well over a foot. And my kids had 2 days off from school, which again, there goes my week again.
It didn't seem like it was snowing. I mean, it didn't really smoke. It was like a longer storm. It didn't like all happen at once. It was like a gradual storm, but it felt like it snowed all day. But it really didn't get a lot out of it for it snowing all day.
Yeah, we had one point where we went out, I shoveled the driveway and everything like this. We were going to go out sledding, right? I went out and kind of like about an hour passed and we went out at that point, and I had about 5 inches of snow on my car in an hour. It was like unbelievable. You just, the rest of it was a pretty just snow. But then it was like, boom, we got hit crazy at one point.
No, we didn't get hit that hard, but we got about like 8 to 10 inches. It was a nice snowstorm. I walked about a mile out in the snow to go get a couple nice pictures of the bridge and walk back.
Yeah, like it is. Well, we're gonna have to kind of do a revisualization of that photo in the last call today. So meanwhile, while we had the kind of like what's this, the third March nor'easter of the year, it was it seemed like the news just would not stop breaking this week, with and not just kind of like palace intrigue kind of garbage, but some serious stories. I mean, because, and we mentioned at the beginning of the show in the intro that about John Bolton being appointed for the National Security Director. We'll get into that in a second. But because that happened, God, when did it happen? Thursday, right? I guess, right? Because that came down on Thursday or Wednesday. Everything screws together. It almost completely eclipsed the news that broke at the beginning of the week, which had to do with the Cambridge Analytica whistleblower this week. That was just pretty nuts to me.
Yeah, I haven't been really able to watch that whole entire story unfold, but it seems like obviously we know data mining is a big industry. It's one of the fastest, largest growing industries. It's almost like the modern day gold rush or an oil rush, the data mining that's going on and how we're using it for politics. But this seems a little bit more than that.
Well, look, here's the deal is that, if people have not watched anything about this, I would encourage you at very least to watch the Guardian video, the interview with Christopher Wiley. Christopher Wiley was the whistleblower who was basically there when Cambridge Analytica was founded. So listen, if you haven't been paying that much attention and you hear Cambridge Analytica and data and your brain turns off, the baseline is this. Cambridge Analytica was basically the data firm that the Trump campaign used in the last election.
Which was owned by the Mercers.
Which is owned by the Mercers and the kind of
operated by Bannon.
Operated by Steve Bannon, right? And they had basically taken a whole bunch of tools, right, for targeting particular constituents. And what separated Cambridge Analytica from the rest of the pack, so to speak, is they, look, everybody does this data mining, right? Matter of fact, the Democrats were kind of out in front on that years ago. In terms of using data to kind of micro-target individual voters to get them out, door knocking and all that kind of stuff. So data mining is happening right across the board. There's this great documentary that was produced, I think, like 2004 or something like this, called The Persuaders, which looks at this organization called Axiom, which basically kind of harvests all this data and produces categories of people, right, that you can target. But Cambridge Analytica was taking this to the next round. The deal is that Christopher Wiley, in this interview with The Guardian, basically he talks about his expertise was assembling kind of data profiles and basically weaponizing data, right, for political persuasion, right, in order to advocate for political candidates. So they were already doing this, right? What separated this one apart was the fact that they got a hold through this professor, this British professor, who was doing research on Facebook, right? Facebook, well, I'll get to that in a second. Research on Facebook, and basically had millions and millions of Facebook profiles in kind of basically one can. And with all that data, that basically became the what Cambridge Analytica was founded on. Right, that's what brought Steve Bannon in. That's what got the organization off and running. And what this has exposed is a few things. I mean, I know that one line that's been happening in the media is that what Cambridge Analytica did here was unique, and Cambridge Analytica did here basically could have potentially swung the election towards Trump, and that may or may not be true. That's kind of unclear. But the bigger story here is that Facebook was basically exposed as basically saying to companies, hey, look, why don't you found your company based upon our data? And you could design an app for our platform. You send it out there and you get people to like it. And then once a person likes that, not only do you get access to that person's data, but you get access to all of their friends' data, right? And everyone connected to their friends' data. Right. So reportedly they had access to direct access through this app, about 250,000, if I remember, 270,000 individuals. But that baseline of people who joined that app kind of exploded until like millions and millions of people. And these are bad people. So this has got, I was saying to Sean before the show today, if you think about what Fox News has been to the right wing for the past 30 years, right? The fact that you've got this media strategy about driving a narrative kind of explicitly and claiming to be news, right? What that has done to turn the politics in this country in one direction. What we see in Cambridge Analytica, and as everybody has been starting to report, beginning with the Washington Post and the New Yorker, that this is actually happening everywhere in Silicon Valley. And what this suggests is that no longer are we being they're even putting on a show to pretend that we're being persuaded. We're being manipulated without us even knowing that. And that is extraordinarily dangerous. It's like the kind of like the happy-go-lucky version of Big Brother in 1984, because we think we're just kind of like, we believe these things and we clicking on the stuff and like reading different stories, when when actuality what's going on behind the scenes is we're being steered in one direction over the other. So that was just a huge story that began the week. And then, right, as you're kind of telling me, and I missed this last night, you're telling me that not only do we have this happening with Cambridge Analytica, but now we find out that the hacking job of the DNC turns out to be a little step closer to having the direct ties to Russian intelligence, right, Sean?
Yes, and I think this story might be the one that really seals it for the Trump administration. Sorry about that. I feel like that. Roger Stone, back in the summer, admitted that he met and talked with Guccifer, the person who committed the hacks on the DNC. And it was reported last night that Guccifer, who claimed to be a Romanian hacker, was not a Romanian hacker, and in fact was a Russian intelligence officer. The Daily Beast reported that they figured this out through the authorities investigating it. Figured this out through the fact that Guccifer forgot to log into his VPN network when he was going onto Twitter and WordPress at least one time. And because he did not log into his VPN network, it was figured out that they were part of a Russian online intelligence agency.
That's nuts, man.
And now I'm not big on this Russian story. I'm kind of like sitting on the sideline, watching it unfold, not saying Russia, Russia, Russia. I think that could be a distraction from the real issues, like what Sanders said, distraction from like the stuff that's going on at home with income inequality and stuff like that. But I think this is a huge story.
I agree with you. And I think that, like you, I don't, I'm not in the kind of Rachel Maddow camp on this one. That is kind of like all Russia all the time. And that's like the secret key that will unlock the secrets of, the destruction of the Trump administration. Not at all. But I mean, I do think there's something there. I do think it's about kind of all sorts of kinds of corruption that we have not even seen yet. But I do think that there is something to the story. And kudos to those folks at the Daily Beast, man, for getting this story too. Yeah,
that's a big one.
So here's that point of connection is like, so you've got that going on, and this is where I start getting concerned is that what we see with all the palace intrigue that we've been following, not we necessarily, but that has been followed in the national media and the Trump administration. In my mind, what we just saw last night, was it last night or Thursday? Or Wednesday night?
Last night was Thursday.
I don't know, man. I'm telling you, this week has just blurred together. I guess it was 2 nights ago when McMaster, Trump basically announced through Twitter once again that McMaster is out and he's bringing John Bolton aboard, the Warhawk John Bolton.
On the Walrus?
I am the Walrus indeed, man. The stash man, right? I mean, if you have...
He has a better stash than Saccone.
Well, I mean, yeah, right, exactly. If like, he's like, I look at Iron Stash, right, out there, running against Paul Ryan. I look at him being as like, this is his like evil twin, right? This is on the other side. This guy's nuts.
Did you ever see have you ever seen Big Lebowski?
Yes. Okay,
we're going on the Walrus.
Yes.
And Donnie kept going, I'm the Walrus. It's like what Lennon said. Yeah, I'm the Walrus. Donnie, shut the fuck up. I saw that tweet I saw someone make that Twitter analogy earlier today, which is absolutely hilarious. Looks like we might be seeing Jesus after the nuclear holocaust that's going to be going down.
Well, I'm telling you, this guy, I did a deep dive last night into, and I was actually originally going to put together a little audio segment that we could look at some of the clips, but I'm still working on my rigged up system here. I don't have my computer back yet, so we can't run the sound as we're recording the show. But the thing is that just give you just a very brief on Bolton. I mean, the guy is like a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. The guy is a Fox News channel commentator and has been kind of close to Trump. And reports have come out that that's probably why Trump has been so keen on John Bolton. Because remember, early on when he was John Bolton was being considered and being pushed by the right wing, but Trump poo-pooed him in favor of Rex Tillerson because Rex Tillerson basically, fit the movie character image that he wanted more than Bolton. And Trump originally said that he didn't like Bolton's mustache. Literally, that was why he wasn't chosen. But this guy's nuts. I mean, this guy is tied deeply into the National Rifle Association, the NRA. He's been all over the farthest right wing of international policy stuff for several decades now. And the fact that he was basically openly advocating for a first strike on North Korea years ago, I'm basically saying the U.S. should be justified is remarkable. And that this guy, other things that have been emerging is that even before he was UN secretary, he was known to be just have a temper and just to be a little bit on edge. There was a story that was published years ago by Daily Kos that basically was talking about how Bolton was like harassed this one woman, right? It was a letter that was sent to her friend. Let me see what her name was. Her name was Melody Townsell, and she worked for USAID. And she's talked about that when Bolton was, somehow involved in these negotiations or something. And here's to give you an example of this kind of guy. This woman wrote to her friend, said, Mr. Bolton proceeded to chase me through the halls of a Russian hotel, throwing things at me, shoving, threatening letters under my door, and generally behaving like a madman. For nearly 2 weeks, while I awaited fresh direction from my company and from USAID, John Bolton hounded me in such an appalling way that I eventually retreated to my hotel room and stayed there. Mr. Bolton, of course, then routinely visited me there to pound on the door and shout threats. As a further aside, he made unconscionable comments about my weight, my wardrobe, and with a couple of team leaders, my sexuality, hinting that I was a lesbian. For the record, I'm not. As a malign whistleblower, I've learned firsthand the lengths that Mr. Bolton will go to accomplish any goal he sets for himself. Truth flew out the window. Decency flew out the window. And in his bid to smear me and promote the interest of his client, he went straight for the low road and stayed there. John Bolton put me through hell, and he did everything he could to intimidate, malign, and threaten not just me, but anybody unwilling to go along with his version of events. His behavior back in 1994 wasn't just unforgivable, it was pathological. Right? And 1994 is an important date for this because this is exactly when he gave his speech about the UN doesn't exist. We could get rid of the top 10 floors of the UN and nobody would notice, and that the US is the only remaining superpower, and therefore we will impose our will on the world, and the world will kind of come behind us. We'll motivate people when it's in our interest, and if you don't like it, too bad for you, is basically the speech that he gave. So this is that guy. And I took the time to read through that excerpt because this is a personal account, definitely, but that is the kind of background that this guy brings. And I hate to say it, but putting him there, it fits in perfectly with the worst tendencies of the Trump administration right now.
Yeah.
Sean coughs for that.
I'm not sick, but I have it's just like stuff like caught up in my congested a little bit today. So I'm not coughing into the microphone.
There you go. But so I mean that's crazy, and the fact that we saw that go on with John Bolton, and then we saw Trump's long kind of who basically been his lead lawyer in the special counsel case, in the Russia investigation. He left this week, and who did he bring on board? Well, he brought on board This oh my God, Joseph diGenova and his wife Victoria Toensing, and they're just basically the people who have been making the rounds of right-wing media, hawking all sorts of conspiracy theories, and have been openly attacking kind of Mueller investigations, say that it's a crime that this is being investigated and so on. And the reports are coming out now that this basically is signaling that Trump is just going to go all after and kind of attacking the Russian investigation. And, it seems to me that things are about to go off the rails, both in the international scope, right, and what we're having here in this play out in the Russia trial here on domestically.
Yeah. It looks like what we're watching with Trump is the, as I said last week, the junta.
No, exactly.
The formation of the junta.
Well, and I guess that he's going to have a new ally out there in Illinois if everything goes his way, huh?
Yeah. No. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. Arthur Jones. Man, what a guy.
Tell us about Arthur Jones, Sean.
Arthur Jones is running for Congress out in Illinois. He was the head of one of the American Nazi parties that are out there. And basically, he got on the ballot because no other Republican decided to run for this seat. It's a safe Democratic seat, but still, you got to think if someone is like on some Republican committee out there, he's like, listen, you go up to someone who's like, fuck you, you're running for this seat. This guy can't win the primary. Like, you know what I mean? Like for the sake of like, where's the leadership in that?
Yep.
And 20,000 people.
20,000 people
voted for a Nazi.
And and I said that in the intro that voting strictly party line vote is not really an excuse, and that comes from actual interviews that were conducted. They did exit polls who voted for this guy, and the people were asked.
Oh, because it's a closed primary system.
Yeah.
So they voted for him because he was on the ticket. He was the only person to vote for.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I know that it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not
Right.
It's not an excuse.
But people knew. But the thing is that people knew that they voted for him, right? But there was like, I just voted straight. I just voted straight down. I just voted straight. I'm like, what? What the hell are you talking about? You're going in. You're voting for this guy in this primary. I didn't even understand like what would go in that. How do you actually cast your vote for a Nazi?
Yeah, I mean, I will admit, I am a ticket puncher. Boom, I'll just hit the straight Democratic ticket when I go in and vote, especially for races. But like when it's like school board and stuff like that, I'll make sure I'll hit a couple of people. Or if it's like there's like three judges on there, 2 Republican and 1 Democrat, I'll just vote for the 1 Democrat because I don't have to vote for all 3 of them.
Right.
Like it's stuff like that like. Yeah.
No, but look, this is a different kind of case, right? It's not.
I mean, this
like,
is
I get the whole idea. I get the whole idea about low information voters, right? I understand that, but the thing is that this guy had been in the news nonstop about giving these
for like
Nazi
months
speeches.
now.
Exactly.
There's video of him. He actually spoke at the Capitol steps a couple years ago, and right before the election, like the Saturday before the election out here on the Capitol steps.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just waiting for someone to release a video of it because I've seen it a couple times. Who listens to our podcast? But basically, like he says, the Jew party, the Jews that Jew of Rob Emanuel wouldn't give him the protection that the Pennsylvania State Police have given him to speak on the Capitol steps. When he spoke a couple of years ago, he was sitting in front of the whole entire. There were cops. There are people in like military gear on both sides protecting these National Socialist members.
It's crazy, man. That is the world we live in now. That really is the world we live in now.
And so this is also another point. I guess I don't know if bring it up in this segment or the next segment, but this is what the Republican Party's becoming, right? The past couple of weeks, you've had stories coming out, right? There's a traditionalist workers' party, right? Matthew Heimbach, who's famous for that. They folded like they just folded like a cheap suit in the past couple of weeks because of Heimbach was having an affair with the wife of his co-founder. And then when confronted on it, he somehow like got charged for assault and battery against his own wife. And that group folded within a day. Right. You also had Identity Europa, another organization we've been following. They've been going through so many leaders over the past year. It almost makes the Trump administration look sane. Like,
right.
Like these organizations, like these movements aren't based on actual organizing. Like ground organizing, like with like unions or stuff like that. These movements happen in a vacuum. It's like a prairie fire. Either it's just a big prairie fire, it goes out right away as fast as it starts, or engulfs the whole entire forest. Yep. And okay, so people are saying, and Richard Spencer, he's not having fun anymore with this stuff. These people they go away, but they're not going away either.
Now, look,
Like their movements might be going away as fast as they started, but they're being brought into the fold with the normal with the Republican Party.
Well, yes,
the modern Republican Party is bringing these people into the fold.
Right. And look, the pattern is this, right? And this is one of the reasons why, again, other people.
I was going to say I'll expand on that in the next segment.
Yeah, you're gonna say other people have said this better than I would, but basically, what you see, they're able to kind of expand some of this, some of their reach when they are out of power, right? And I think that we saw a huge uptick in this in part because, again, you had the black guy in the White House, right? They were able to the Republican Party was able to kind of double down on its racist on its racism and its dog whistle politics in order to kind of bring these people aboard. And this is kind of the waxing and waning of these movements is that they have a harder time sustaining themselves for exactly the reasons that you say when they're in power. But the fact that but now you got some of these people being brought so far into the party that you got Nazis being elected. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah. I'll expand on that more in the next segment when I do recap the gun rally that I was at last week.
Yeah, the fun one, right? Sean made it out alive. Like I checked in afterwards to make sure he was all right. It's like, Jesus, man. So, all right. So one last thing before we take a break. So if you remember, I talked about this briefly last week. I did not give this the attention it deserved because there were these massive walkouts on March 14th. And student walking out of high schools across the country, and even some cases junior highs across the country, in support of gun reform, to put an end to these mass shootings. Happen all over the country. And in my backyard, the Pembridge School District, about 225 students or so walked out. Now, the school district tried to kind of contain the student movement that had grown up to work in solidarity, calling for gun reform, by basically saying that if you are interested in attending this stuff, you can go to the auditorium or whatever for 17 minutes of silence and talking about nice stuff or whatever like this, and express your solidarity by walking out to the auditorium, right? And that was a certain way of kind of containing the movement. Well, there's about 225 students or so who were like, nope, we're not going to be kind of like, co-opted before we've even begun. So they walked out of that school. Now, all of those 225 plus students were given detention. Okay. Last Saturday was the first weekend of detention. Now, here's the interesting thing what took place is that the school district basically didn't want to spend any money on this. Right. So what they did is that, so you got 225 students. And so if you're going to have 225 students come in for detention, you got to pay people to be there. Right. But they didn't want to pay too many people. So what they did is they decided you're going to bring them in, students in waves. So they're broken up over 6 weeks, 6 Saturdays, right? In groups of whatever, 25 or something like this are broken up to come in.
40, but
what's that?
I saw 49 were there.
49 were there last week, but there's just 25. It varies by the week, right? So so the problem is this, right? The problem is this, is that if you brought everyone in for that one day, it'd be bad enough, right? It'd be bad enough to begin with, but you spread that out over 6 weeks, right? And now you make it more of an issue, especially since it made national news. I mean, the Pembridge students made it into Newsweek, and they made it into a variety of other kind of national broadcasts and national reporting. And so there were last weekend at 7:30 in the morning, there were dozens of people that showed up in solidarity with these students. But guess who else was there? Right? The local NRA folks were there. Right. And so now tomorrow will be the second round of these detentions. And once again, the students are calling for acts of solidarity. So I'm going to give you this. This is from the Support Pembridge Students Serving Detention for a Walkout. This is that's a Facebook event that's there for tomorrow. And let me just read you what this is, and we'll talk a little bit about it before the break. So this is the description. Quote, many students who made the decision to join the National School Walkout on Wednesday, March 14th to advocate for gun control reform and student safety will be serving detention this Saturday, the 24th, from 8 to 10 a.m. Various community members have expressed interest in once again standing in solidarity with the students and providing them with breakfast items. Please meet next to the main sign of Pembridge High School at 7:30 a.m. on Saturday with signs of support for the Never Again movement and any snacks you may be able to provide the students who are entering the school for detention. Share widely wear orange, and show up to continue to share the message that these students are advocating for. So that's kind of how it's being framed. And the concern is that because of the way that, number one, punishing these students for engaging in civic action in this way, right, through detention, has activated like the community in some ways. And the second round is like, now that it's made the national news, the concern at this point is that, is this actually the NRA going to try to make this a national issue too as well? I will be there on the ground tomorrow with my new camera and taking pictures and ideally interviewing some of the students that are going in there. There were some great speeches that were there from last week. And if I had my other computer, I would have had that audio up for you already, but I don't. So, but I will have that for you. So look forward to that too as well.
Now, will you be shooting that in manual mode?
I probably, to be honest with you, probably not tomorrow. I know you shake your head at me and things like this, but I have not had the chance to practice with it enough, and I don't want to botch everything. So
you should put it in aperture priority.
Aperture priority.
Yeah, that'll give you a
we
good.
can talk about that in the fun half. The fun half. I keep on saying that for some reason. In today's last call, and no, seriously, you can give me some camera advice for it, because I seriously, Sean, that's what I wanted to do. If my kids hadn't had so much time off from school and there weren't sickness having in the household, I wanted to actually spend some time during my spring break, which went by, whatever. Working and practicing with my camera, but I haven't had the chance yet. So probably most of it's going to be an auto, but we'll talk about that in the last call, and you could give me some tips for that. It's a good one. All right. He's shaking his head at me. All right. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. I want to remind everybody, you can support this work and support our awesome writers over at ragingchickenpress.org by becoming a member. Go to patreon.com/rcpress. You become a member as little as $5 a month. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We'll be back right after this.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1918. That was the day the trial of 101 industrial workers of the world began in Chicago. Their alleged crimes? Speaking out against U.S. involvement in World War I. They were tried under the Espionage Act. But they were really targeted for prosecution because of their outspoken and radical labor organizing. In Chicago, 87 members of the union were held in the Cook County Jail for nearly a year before their trial. The so-called evidence in the case consisted mainly of newspaper articles and letters written by the IWW members. Most of them were before the U.S. had even entered the war. The trial lasted until August. The presiding judge was Kenshaw Mountain Landis, who shortly after the verdict would leave the bench to become the commissioner of Major League Baseball. In all, 150 Wobblies faced charges in Chicago, Wichita, Kansas, and Sacramento, California. Many received harsh sentences ranging from 5 to 25 years in prison. One of those convicted was Ralph Chaplin, the author of the labor anthem Solidarity Forever. In Leavenworth Prison, he continued to write verse. His poems reflected his yearning for freedom, including the lines, "Somewhere the dawn breaks laughing o'er the sea. To splash with gold the city's domes and towers, and countless men seek visions wide and free. In that alluring world that is now ours. But no one there could prize as much as we the open road, the smell of grass and flowers." In 1924, the last IWW prisoner from these trials was finally released from prison. But the crackdown had taken a major toll on labor organizations across the nation. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. So, Sean, you were out in the streets of Harrisburg, just hanging out with some, good, solid American citizens last week, right?
Yes. So the reason why we had to cut our podcast short last week is because I wanted to hang out with people who actually love America and love Jesus. People like 3%ers, Oath Keepers, and members of the Pennsylvania Lightfoot Militia. People who provide security for the white nationalists and racists down in Charlottesville over the summer.
Did you have to actually ask any of them if any of them actually had their AR-15s blessed at the Moon Church ceremony?
I did not. I was not
Just
trying
out
to
of
get shot. I was trying not to get a butt stock to the face.
Oh man. So walk us through a little bit. I mean, some of the pictures you posted online were like, okay, yep, these are those people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as I said, the 3%ers and all were there. I mainly went to see who was going to show up. I was not expecting one of those groups to be the Pennsylvania Republican Party, but but they were there. I'll get more.
Were you like, hey, I know you?
Like this? I know you. But like one of the people who basically like was trying to go there, see who's going to show up and take pictures of the patches and all that they were wearing and some of the stuff and the guns obviously that they had. But basically what happened was, basically one of the people who put this on was Christian Yingling, one of our good friends. We wrote about him a couple times on Facebook. One of the times we wrote about him was that he was one of the people who photographed providing security for people in Charlottesville over the summer. And he had him and a bunch of his other LARPing assholes there, live action role playing dickheads, had a blue triangle with a red border going around. It said, in protection of the Constitution, Seville 8/12/17. So obviously they were wearing these patches that showed that they were in Charlottesville over the summer. They were providing security there. I was actually talking to some of the media people. I was like, hey, you see those patches on their shoulder? They're like, no, I don't know. And I'm like, take a look what those patches say. And they're like, they're looking at me like, okay, so what? I'm like, dude, I was like, that's them being in Harris. They're proving that they're out there in Charlottesville. There were a couple of times people approached me like, what are you doing here? Why are you taking pictures? What outlet are you for? I was like, I'm some local press, like independent blog. It's like, you don't have to worry about it. Like people trying to like, because like I don't have a long telephoto lens. So I'm basically like up in their face with my wide angle lens taking their pictures.
This is Sean basically making a pitch for you to send him money so he can get that telephoto lens and not risk his life.
No. I'm going to be getting a different camera at the end of the summer, so I don't need that money now. But so one of the things I noticed there was that there was someone walking around with 2 clipboards in their hands, and they were signing a petition. I'm like, okay. So I was like, he came up to me, he's like, you want to sign a petition? And I'm like, nah, I don't sign petitions and stuff like that. And here it wasn't a petition; it was an email list to get on the Pennsylvania Republican Party's email blast server. Basically, it had the big old Pennsylvania GOP logo in the front. It said "Protect Our Second Amendment," blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, so do you work for the Republican Party?" And I was like, "No." I was like, so are you circulating petitions on behalf of the Republican Party? And they're like, no, that's the organizer over there. You can go talk to them. And I'm like, no. I was like, what are you doing here? Are you working for the Republican Party?
And then he's like, exit, stay left.
So one of the things, so that's that, and he denies it, and I got pictures of him, and I got pictures of the petition clipboard that I posted up online, and then a couple of other people I noticed there. I noticed Paul Mango's field director for Central Pennsylvania was there in attendance with a couple of Mango supporters, and then I saw one of Scott Wagner's staffers walk by talking to the guy with the clipboards in his hand for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then left. And it wasn't like they were buddy. It wasn't like, hey, it wasn't like 2 strangers meeting up. I mean, it was like 2 bros meeting up. Like, you know what I mean? Shaking hands. Hey, how's everything going? Haven't seen you in a long time. People with acting with like they're in the same social circles up here in Harrisburg. So, and I started taking their pictures as well. I took everyone's pictures because, I knew who they were because they came into Pizza Boy a few weeks ago to do petition gathering, petition collections, trainings. So like everyone, all these staffers came into Pizza Boy, and they were collecting signatures. They were going over how to properly collect signatures to get on the ballot. So this is how I recognized them. This is how I knew who they were, and took their pictures, put them up online. And once the GOP guy left, I followed him. I trailed him back to the GOP headquarters. I was maybe like a block or a half block behind him the whole time, just walking to see where he was going. And right before the GOP headquarters, which is only like 3 blocks away from the Capitol, he cut down the main a small alleyway and cut back into where their back door was at.
You ever see Get Smart?
No, I have not.
Dun, da-da, dun, da-da, dun, da-da. It's like he disappears into the phone booth and sucks into the GOP.
Yeah,
down the back alley. There you go, man. I mean, there you go. I mean, this is not like brain surgery to put this together, right? I mean, this is kind of like the direct line between the most extreme elements in our nation right now and the Pennsylvania GOP.
These weren't like the people like that Darryl Metcalf brings up to the gun rallies. These are to like the right of them.
Exactly.
Like, and and plus the thing with the petitions is a bunch of bullshit, right? All those petitions were there. They're not going to be submitted to some agency or something like that. Those are going straight. Those are all about data collection. It's all about getting your phone number, your address, and your email address.
Yep, exactly.
And to bring these people into the fold, and that's what they were doing. Like this is them actively bringing racists and anti-government militia members and white nationalists into the party.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And I think, this is why, once again, we see 2018 is such a critical election that, it's like all hands on deck for this one. So, I mean, following that, it's like, that got some pretty good shares online, too, as well, from what I understand.
Yeah. I mean, and the funny thing is, it's like, I mean, yeah. And it got shares online. And the thing is, it's like, I know people who I know who like my followers are on Facebook, right? Or Twitter. I put something up on Twitter. I know people in the media are going to say it. They might not respond to it. And I know probably like everyone within the Democratic Party and probably a lot of people within the Republican Party saw that too. Like out here in Harrisburg.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, these people, it's like what Rick always said. You got to make a citizen out of someone sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like so the Wagner staffer decided to wait the weekend and start calling me out on Twitter. So, these were good people, blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, I asked your boy 2 times or 3 times, like, what's he doing there with with these things? Okay, I mean, he's courting you. I caught you guys out openly courting racists and white nationalists. Like, there you go, end of story.
Yep, exactly. Period. Done. Well, I guess it's good news on the other side that we see such a huge uptick in the number of people that actually want to run this year.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you have fair congressional maps.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that. Hey, let me ask you this. So is Saccone now is in now, right?
Yeah, Saccone's going to be running again.
And he's actually going to be running against Connor Lamb, right?
No, he's not.
Okay, so all right. So I remember like originally when we were talking about this, you were saying no, he's not going to be in that district anymore. And then I was
Saccone's going to be running in the 14th district, right? Which is part of the 18th special election, right? It's the southwestern corner of Pennsylvania. He's going to be having his own primary, and then he's going to be facing a Democratic primary challenger. It's not going to be Connor Lamb. Connor Lamb is going to be going against Keith Rothfuss.
Okay.
Yes. So another fun day we had. Monday and Tuesday, I decided to sit in the Keystone office building for about like 6 hours total, 7 hours, watching people walking around this huge office building, trying to submit their petitions. It was absolutely hilarious because me and Roxbury were the only 2 people there watching this shit go down. So people would walk through the door. They would go right by the sign because the sign's not facing the door, the stairs. It's facing the lobby. So like people are just like walking right in there and just going, looking up in the air. You'll see them go all the way down the other end of the office building, the Keystone office building, which is literally like a city block. The one entrance is on Forster. Another entrance is on North Street. It's literally a city block wide. So they go down all the way down to the Forster entrance, look around. Nope, not in there. You see them come back. They go down towards where the State Museum is at. Nope, not in there. And we were just watching these people do this all day for like 2 straight days. But 94 candidates filed petitions to run on the primary ticket.
Now, do you have any idea like what the breakdown is in terms of like Democrat or Republican on that?
Yes. 59 Democrats, 34 Republicans.
Man, people are getting involved. That's awesome.
And there's a lot of Democrats getting involved. And there's a flip side to this story.
Okay.
Because we have free and fair elections happening for the first time in a while in Pennsylvania.
Can't have that.
No, we can't. Chris Dush and 10 other Republicans have introduced articles of impeachment against 4 sitting Supreme Court members.
There you go. That's fun.
And there's a lot of veiled statements saying, "Oh, we'll have to look at all the facts here." Val DeGiorgio thinks that the House Republicans who is the head of the Republican Party, the state party, was on the radio this past week saying that the Republicans should at least talk about this in caucus. You've had a lot. Chris Dush told Huffington Post that Terzai and Metcalf has promised him votes on the House floor on this. So this is something that looks like it's going to happen. Scott Wagner came out and said, "Yes, I believe the House should do whatever it wants to do, and then we'll decide if it comes to the Senate." So without saying yes, impeach them, but I'm not really closed to the idea.
If it happened, we'd have to see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is crazy. So, Chief Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court,
Which
Thomas
is totally unprecedented.
Right. And Thomas Saylor, he's a Republican, right? He's the Chief Justice there. Basically, he came out and just kind of like went after these people. This is what he said in his statement this week. This was reported on the Hill too. Was concerned by the impeachment resolutions, what he called, quote, an attack on the independent judiciary, and, quote, threats of impeachment directed against justices because of their decision in a particular case are an attack upon an independent judiciary, which is an essential component of our constitutional plan of government. Right. So this is the Republican Chief Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court going after the Republicans that were bringing these articles or trying to get these articles of impeachment moving forward.
Yes. And this is also whatchamacallit. This is stuff that despots do.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's a more simpler way of putting what Justice Thomas Saylor said. This is what like dictators do.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens. This is what's happening in Turkey. Oh, we don't agree with this? Okay, up next.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I consistently have these moments, and I know you have these moments. You're sitting there, and you just have this moment where say, imagine if this was happening in name your country, right? And
Turkey, Honduras,
exactly,
El Salvador, any like country that we've had a prominent interference with their elections. Like any Iran, Iraq, Russia, China, like let's just go down the list. The Philippines, Cambodia. I don't know.
You have like the mainstream media and everything would be all over this and be like, oh my God, look at this. They're showing that this is the despotic rule. You know, they're going against democratic. Here we go. It's happening right here in our own backyard, folks.
And I truly believe that the House, this will come to a vote in the House.
Oh man. I mean, there's, again, I have this split view again, on the one hand, it's like, this is crazy. On the other hand is like, it's going to be fun to watch it burn. It's going to be fun to watch it burn. I mean, it's like a sickness I have of like dystopian, like reality. Cause like, holy crap. This is insane.
I mean, I thought my first summer out here was crazy enough with the budget stalemate, and I thought that I couldn't get any more crazier than this.
Nope.
We're okay. These maps, Pennsylvania is going to become the most important. The races in Pennsylvania are going to become the most important in the country. Mm-hmm. Pennsylvania is going to provide at least 25% of the seats that Democrats need to pick up the House.
Right.
If they pick up 5 or 6 seats, which they're probably going to do, they'll probably pick up 6 or 7. I mean, they'll probably pick up 6 seats. That's going to provide them with like 25% of the things that the places they need. Right. Keith Rothfuss is going to he's done right now. Right. The Conner Land district's a 50-50 district. Scott Perry might be done. That district got a lot more liberal depending on who wins. You're like all of the southeastern PA is going to be Democratic with the way the lines are drawn. You're going to have someone in the first. Brian Fitzpatrick might go, so that's one. Like a whole entire southeastern corner of the state. Greg Edwards might be picking up a seat. Like, yeah, we're going to be the most important state with the governor's race, the Senate race, and now all these congressional seats are going to be open. The amount of money that's going to be flying through this state over the next up and through the election day is going to be unreal.
Yep. Here's on, then we'll try to be there on the ground for it too as well, because this is important. And it's crazy because
I'll be at the epicenter.
yeah, man, telling you, it's going to be. The summer is like my plan is to spend quite a bit of time in the Lehigh Valley this summer, up with the Edwards campaign, because that is I'm just fascinated with that possibility, not just of the election, but of how his campaign is actually becoming part of a movement. So. Because it's funny because even with the redrawn lines, as we've talked about before, yes, they're more favorable to Democrats, but they're still like majority Republican, right? So the fact is that even so, it's not as if that these lines were redrawn and giving a majority to Democratic seats, but it happens in this election cycle. It looks like because of the mobilization on the ground in a lot of these districts that there's going to be those districts that are a little bit tighter when it comes to the Republican Democratic balance, that like lean Republican. Those ones are the ones that are looking to go Democratic. And there's some districts like what we're seeing in the new 7th where Edwards is running, is that we're going to see a different ensemble of voters, and I don't think it's completely predictable about which way that's going to go. And I think the people that keep on calling it a kind of more conservative district are going to be in for a bit of a surprise.
Oh, the Edwards district?
Yeah,
that's a D+1.
Yeah, it's a D+1, but if you see there's some of the reporting on it that comes out and says, yeah, it's still kind of a conservative district. We'll see how this goes, especially when it comes to the national media. The local media is much better about this. But they kind of say, oh, okay, yes, it leans Democratic, but, it's been historically conservative district. But again,
yeah, but these counties up there went Democrat for the first time ever.
Exactly.
Within the past couple of years.
Exactly.
This should tell you what's going to happen.
Well, and you look at the work that's been going on the ground by, like, for example, Make the Road PA in Lehigh Valley has been doing amazing work there. You look at
Don Jesus Marin's one of the people who've been following us. We've been in contact with him since the day we started this website.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, the work that is the mobilizing that is going on there, the SCIU locals that have been activated, that have consistently been out on the streets there. That you look at kind of One Pennsylvania folks that are there. You look at a whole range of organizations. The Tuesday with Toomey folks coming out. I mean, there's been concerted effort on the ground organizing there, and Greg Edwards has been around for a long time, basically doing the grunt work of community-based organizing in that city. So this is just phenomenal. And the fact that he picked up this week the endorsements of Democracy for America and 350 Action, which is kind of like the electoral action wing of 350.org, the environmental organization founded by Bill McKibben. The fact that they're backing him now is also huge.
And and what's also huge about this? This isn't like local endorsements that are going to get people out to vote. These are national endorsements that are going to help him to fundraise more small dollar donations.
Yes.
I think he's getting an average of $45 a donation.
Yep.
And he's clearing the field with the people up there.
Exactly. And let me just give you this. I mean, here's this Jim Dean to go exactly to Sean's point. This is Jim Dean. He's the chair of Democracy for Action, and this is how this is what he said about Greg Edwards. Quote: "Unapologetic in the battle against income inequality and for economic opportunity for all, Greg Edwards is the kind of bold advocate the people of Pennsylvania's 7th congressional district need fighting for them in Washington. The grassroots campaign that Edwards is building in the Lehigh Valley is not only focused on fighting for Medicare for all, universal pre-K, debt-free college, and raising the minimum wage, he's constructing precisely the kind of inclusive populist coalition Democrats need to win in his district. And that goes right to the point of it. And that is going to echo far beyond the 7th district in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So, all right, before we go to a break, Sean, we got to talk about getting stoned at school, man.
Wait. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't done that in a while.
All right. So wait. So just here's what we're going to do.
We're talking about like Fast Times, right? Ridgemount High.
We're gonna totally, dude. This is like Spicoli kind of stuff, man. Like, dude, man, chill. No. We're talking about the superintendent of Blue Mountain School. So the only way for people to really understand this, I mean, I played you a little clip on the intro here, but the only way to really get how crazy this is for you to hear the audio. So I'm just going to play the audio for you and just enjoy it. And then we're going to talk about it. Right. So just real briefly, because I don't know what else to say about it without you here. You got to just hear this. So, okay, here it is. This is the audio. This is the superintendent of Blue Mountain Schools. And he's talking to, this is a House Education Committee, right, Sean?
Yes. On school safety.
On school safety. Okay, here it is.
Every classroom has been equipped with a 5-gallon bucket full of Riverstone. If an armed intruder attempts to gain entrance to any of our classrooms, they will face a classroom full of students armed with rocks, and they will be stoned.
For the superintendent, I'm intrigued by the rocks. I have not heard about that in a lot of readings. And do you give them slingshots, or are they not permitted?
No, we have some people who have some pretty good arms. They can chuck a rock pretty fast.
But no, I don't mean that jokingly. I mean sincerely. I hope every teacher and everyone would whether it's hot coffee or whatever tool you have to try to suppress.
We have rocks. Alice says anything. Some people have had golf balls, but golf balls bounce around. I was afraid of collateral damage with our kids, so I thought the rocks won't bounce. So actually, it was pretty easy. We just had a dump truck full, go over to a landscaper and get Riverstone, and they're nice, they're smooth, and you can really hurl them pretty quickly and hard.
One other brief question, and just a lighter moment. I was doing some landscaping not long ago, and it happened to be river rocks, and my 4-year-old was assisting me. And as you can imagine, her assistance included throwing a river rock, which hit me. And so there is a certain amount of stopping power, and I can imagine a large number of them coming at an individual as a last resort may have some efficacy.
We chose to make it well known about the Riverstone because we want, if it's an existing student, to be aware that the chances are they're going to be stoned severely if they try to do anything. So certain things with your plans, we have different rallying points that we change and from different classrooms. And so obviously we don't like to advertise all of our plans. Certain things we leak out because we see that it is a potential deterrent.
And when you do your training for the Riverstone throwing, I would like to observe that as a member of the House Education Committee.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll take the committee on the road for that. How's that?
Well, there you have it, Sean. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, Riverstones, man. they
Pond stones. Yeah. So I know, he was serious. I still don't know if the Republicans in the background were serious.
I don't even know. I still can't believe this was for real. It's still, there's part of me, if you look at the guy's face, right? And again, unfortunately you can't see it through the audio, but if you look at his face, the guy looked deadly serious. And in my mind, this would be like the greatest spoof in the world to pull off. Right? Imagine if to go there. I would love it if you showed up and you made this case about how crazy this is. But this guy is like, I don't think he's putting on a show. I think he's for real.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're one of the people sitting on that committee, the Democrats at least, and you're listening to this, how do you just stop him mid-sentence? Just back it up here. Just let's take this from the beginning. I mean, like, what's like little Johnny is going to get up and fucking wing a rock at someone? How's it going to be like? It's going to be like the old like World War II movies, like or World War I movies, like when the person stands up and tries to get out of the trench, boom, just gets knocked out with a bullet.
Exactly.
Like, all right, who's going to be the first person to stand up and who's going to take the bullet for the team? Like,
right, it's gonna be like, okay, listen, little Susie, right? Little Susie,
no one
remember?
really let you anyway. Stand up and.
Yeah, little Susie, remember in Sunday school about David and Goliath? Well, you're David. Well, that's a bad example because David was born. Okay, wait a minute. You're Wonder Woman. Okay, except you don't have superpowers. So, but we're gonna give you this rock, and no, we don't have slingshots, but you're just gonna get up and you're gonna throw it at that guy with the AR-15 that's shooting at us. Okay, right?
As hard as you can.
As hard as you can because it's got some stopping power. We've got a 5-gallon bucket, and he's got loads of ammunition. So. We're bound to lose some, but in the end, we'll get them.
You could be a hero,
right? I mean, imagine this. Imagine this. It's crazy enough. We're talking about. Okay, no, there's no scenario that this makes sense. None. I was gonna say, well, I could say no. There's nothing. So I mean, what are you gonna do? Here, 6th grade class. Throw this at the guy with the AR-15. I mean, that's so crazy, Sean.
I know. So one of my friends on Facebook, I was like, no, this can't be true. So there are people. There's this thing called ALICE training, right? And this is part of the ALICE training program. And back home, the person on my Facebook feed posted it this owner. So I was like, this can't be true. And so Central Bucks and the Chamonix school district are a couple of the school districts that use this ALICE active shooter training. And part of the active shooter training stuff is to throw objects at the shooter. So it's called alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. And part of the counter defense strategy is to throw books, bags, rocks at these people and then try to disarm them. And I really think we should dig deep into this organization and figure out who is funding this, because I can guarantee you a lot of this money has to be coming from the NRA.
I mean, I thought here's part of me
thought
that
instead of like sane, rational gun laws, right? Like instead of like sane, rational gun laws, we're not talking about like banning or grabbing guns from people, but like sane, rational gun laws that, we're talking about students throwing rocks at active shooters in order to save their life, not doing what we can do to save their lives at the point of purchase. No, save their lives once they go into this, once the school shooting starts.
This is the kind of stuff that just, it shows you the level of fear that people are living under. And this is why this like March for Our Lives this weekend is so critical, because you start hearing this kind of stuff. And again, if we get in this space, we're kind of say that, okay, we're going to prepare our kids to throw rocks at someone attacking them with an assault rifle. It's about time we get rid of the assault rifle. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, because, I mean, I grew up in the fear of like nuclear conflict and stuff. And we did drills of kind of like duck and cover to get under our desk or go out into the hallway in case of a nuclear attack. And it was still a fear-based kind of context, of Cold War fear-based context. But the enemy was like, the Soviet Union. Here we're talking about it could be anybody. Get ready at any time to start stoning people. I mean, it's
and so Yeah. So one of the things, like in today's Penn Live, Wagner, one of 3 candidates seeking the nomination for governor, wants to put an armed security guard in every school building in Pennsylvania, and he's calling for the state to pick up the hefty cost. Wagner is convinced the state can find the money to cover the cost by selling off the state liquor stores or redirecting money into the budget that is being spent for something else. While he doesn't have an offer estimate on what the proposal might cost, it could be as much as $192 million annually if it follows the same guidelines as an existing program. Pretty much all 3 Republican governors or candidates running for governor in Pennsylvania want guns in schools.
Oh my God. So when I first saw this, the first like dozen times I watched it, okay, I'm exaggerating, half a dozen times I watched this, what I kept on thinking in my head was like, okay, the NRA has got to be behind something like this. But in this kind of crazy kind of psychological loop, and this is what I mean by it, is that we're going to say, what we're going to do is we're going to have this campaign that's going to advocate having students throw books and rocks at people attacking them with assault rifles. And then the response is going to be, that's crazy. Right. What we should do is having other people with guns in the schools to fight them, not having kids throwing rocks. And they're basically creating a group of people that would make the NRA's case for them. And then there was this reporting it was ABC 16, Northeast Pennsylvania, that was following this survey. And here's an example of this. I want to just kind of walk you through this part of the article. So the superintendent says we have devices to blockade the doors and all this stuff. And then here's how the article goes. A teenager who is a senior at Blue Mountain High School, and he says he and other students like the plan. Quote, it matters because it will help protect the schools. Anything helps. Rocks are better than books and pencils. Okay, you got that? Next, parents do as well. Quote, at this point, we have to get creative. We have to protect our kids first and foremost. Throwing rocks, it's an option, says Dory Bornstein. But not everyone thinks this is a practical line of defense. I think it's rather comical, said one college student in Schuylkill Haven. It's absurd. Arm the teachers, said a parent in Schuylkill Haven. Hensel says that the district has no plans to arm teachers, however. Blue Mountain does have a maintenance employee who is trained and certified to work as school security and is armed. And the district plans to have more support staff get the same training to act as security. All right. So we've got the craziness of the Stones. And then you see this other movement happening at the same time as a way of bolstering the arguments of the NRA just to arm the teachers. I mean, this is like political jujitsu stuff that's going on here. That's what my gut tells me, although I have no evidence for it at this point.
We're going back to the good people with guns narrative.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So instead of having here's the choice that's set up, right? We could have our kids throw rocks at people with assault rifles, or we can have good guys with guns capable of taking that person down. There's your narrative. That's our world, man. That is our world. In the meantime, buckets of river stones, Sean. Buckets of river stones.
Hopefully little Johnny can come out of the bullpen.
All right, man. Well, David and Goliath, it will be up there on the mountain. All right, so we're just about closing this one out, folks. We're going to go into today's last call.
So I do have one other thing I'd like to say.
Oh, wait, my bad. Go ahead.
Rumor has it Betsy DeVos will be in Johnstown, Pennsylvania on Monday.
Ooh,
getting a
word from calendars.
Getting a word from a couple of people. Don't know why, but been trying to put out there on feelers out on Twitter, asking around, figuring out if anyone knows why Betsy DeVos is going to be in Johnstown on Monday, which is pretty out on the beaten path. But I will say one thing. I know Johnstown and that part of Pennsylvania has a lot of military contractors out there, so it might be having something to do with her school. It could have something to do with her school task force.
Well, this is interesting. This is interesting for a bunch of reasons. Where is Steven Singer? Where is Steven Singer out of?
He's out of the Pittsburgh area.
He's out of the Pittsburgh area. I wonder. We're going to have to come back to this one because on Monday you said?
Yes.
All right. So if anybody knows about this, kind of respond to Sean on Twitter at RCPress_Sean or kind of at RC Press. And let us know what's going on because what's interesting about that is there's been some interesting play out in Johnstown. It turned out that had a very strong turnout for Bernie in the election. I don't want to say too much more about it because I don't know if I'm remembering it all exactly as it is, but it's just piqued something in my consciousness there. So let us know if anything is going on out there. And if anybody is going to be showing up to greet Betsy DeVos, please take pictures and send them our way. All right. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We're going to go into the last call for real this time. And it'll be a short one. So we remind everybody, you want to go to patreon.com/rcpress to become a member of Raging Chicken Press. You become a member as little as $5 a month, help support this work, help bring aboard new writers as we get into this critical 2018 election season. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We'll be back right after this. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Over the past 6 years, we've brought unapologetic, progressive, activist media to Pennsylvania and beyond. We've helped hold those in power accountable and shine a light on some amazing activist work. We've broken national stories and established a reputation as an aggressive, independent media site. As newsrooms close and traditional journalists lose their jobs, hard-hitting investigative news suffers. If we care about our democracy, we have to find new sustainable models of journalism. And frankly, no one's going to do it for us. After the Trump election, we dug in even deeper. Thanks to some longtime members, one-time donations, and a shift in other resources, we brought on more writers and started paying them. Now we're doubling down and want to expand our infrastructure and pay our writers even more. We need to invest in our media if we have a chance to resist the unprecedented assault on democracy, working families, women's rights, and our planet. History will remember the choices we make today. So take a minute to become a member of Raging Chicken Press. For as little as $5 a month, the price of a local craft beer or a cup of coffee, you will be supporting homegrown progressive journalists and media activists. Go to ragingchickenpress.org and click on the Support and Membership tab to become a member. Leave a one-time donation or learn about other ways that you can help. We don't have billionaire backers. Keeping progressive, activist media going strong depends on you. Thank you for all your help and support. Keep up the fight. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. Last call. Today we got a short one for you today. We got some beer, and Sean's going to give me some photo ideas and how to set my camera and not make an idiot out of myself as I'm covering protests this weekend. So let's get the beer stuff out of the way. Sean, got Pizza Boy's got something new on tap?
Yes, we have a new 6-pack out there. It's called Get a Grip IPA. It's a nice, light, refreshing IPA. Not too hoppy or bitter, but it has a nice mild flavor to it.
A nice mild flavor to it.
Yeah, nice mildly hopped flavor. Really good. Really, I like it a lot.
So are you saying this is kind of like, this is the everybody's drinking beer?
Yes.
There you go. There you have it. Well, out here in Free Will, they've been teasing a couple things. One, they've put out this great a beer called the kind of 5th of May, but they also put out a mojito sour, which I love. I just think it's fantastic. And they're starting to tease that right now with kind of coming up. I don't know. Let me see. Let me bring it down here. So they basically have been paired up with or kind of built a connection up with these folks at Peace Tree Farms that they're pulling in their fresh mint from. And so they got posting pictures up online with a beautiful, beautiful fresh mint that they're going to be putting in with the key lime sour into rum barrels and this fresh mint for the mojito sour. So that's going to be kind of put into the barrels soon. So that's awesome. And then they've got these kind of teasing pictures, right, of literally like a mountains of cans ready for a canning. And this is what they said for it. Quote, say, empty cans as far and wide as the eyes can see means only one thing. We've got some upcoming projects to package. Stay tuned for more details and announcements. Cheers. So don't know what it is, but hopefully next week we're going to have another report on that to see what is going on up there at Free Will. Any other kind of good tidbits and beer tidbits that you got there, Sean?
No, nothing really going on out here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Central
out here in Pennsylvania.
Out here in Central Virginia.
Out here in Pennsylvania. Well, here it's in right here at Free Will, just to give you guys the update of what's happening this weekend. Tonight, this is Friday night. They have beer and Dump and Roll is the food truck for the week. And let me give you a little bit of background on that. What that is, Dump and Roll is basically catering for any occasion, right? It looks kind of a cool, kind of hip graffiti wagon out there. So they'll be out there providing the food. They got some mac and cheese. It goes like good solid food for the weekend. So beer and Dump and Roll. And this is Firkin Friday at Free Will. They've got an old-fashioned inspired Firkin featuring orange-colored malcontent, which I have to say is one of my absolute favorites that they have produced. It's a little bit on the deep orangey side, but man, I love it. So having it out of a Firkin, that's like my dream right there. On Saturday, they're going to have beer once again and tray locally sourced. And on Sunday, there's going to be a March Meltdown 5K benefiting the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy, and it starts and ends at the brewery. That's fantastic. It starts at 11 a.m. at the brewery. So you can go and take part in that if you are dying to get out and run this weekend. That would be awesome. And what else we got? We have last thing. I'm sorry. I'm just like not very with it at this point. Oh, yes. You have beer and you have good food equals good mood. Truck will be there to celebrate all the runners of the weekend. So that's what we got there. So Sean, like I said, I'm going to be going out to the Penn Ridge High School tomorrow, and nice and bright and early in the morning. And I have to take my kids with me, so that'll be fun. And to check this out, so I have not had the opportunity to do too much practice with my new camera, but I am planning on taking out. So, all right, give me the quick and dirty rundown about how I should be taking these pictures.
Sorry.
John was lost in Twitter.
I would just put the camera in the aperture priority mode and let the autofocus do it. Make sure you frame up your shots. Use the rule of thirds, basic composition. Have fun.
So aperture priority, what does that do?
So if you have like an aperture set as low as possible, like say at 4 or 3.5, if you have like the angle, the lens really wide open, that, or you say like around like 5.6, which gives it like a sharper image. Mm-hmm. Everything else around the subject will be not in focus, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you have an aperture set up at like 9, everything will be in focus.
Everything's in focus, right?
Everything's in focus. It's just a snapshot. You're not emphasizing what you want to see, stuff like that.
But what does aperture priority do then?
It sets the aperture for you without you having adjusting, and you adjust your shutter speed. So pretty much like you want to get the exposure as close to the center as possible, right? Like when you're looking through the viewfinder, you have like that little like meter.
Yeah.
You want to get like the thing as close to the center as possible, and then you take the picture and then it will do everything.
So it sets the aperture in order to what? To have the center in focus and the rest blurred out, or the...
No, you set the like you use the autofocus, right?
Right.
But the app, I don't use it. I just use everything in manual mode. I've never used any of the priority modes.
Okay.
Like one's a shutter speed priority, and the other one's aperture priority. Aperture priority, it sets the aperture to where you want to like to where you want to get the photo. I think it sets it might set the shutter speed to where you have the aperture set up at.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do some crash coursing again tonight. So I mean, I spent the first part I was playing around a lot with the aperture stuff, taking different shots. That was one of the first things I did, because I remember how you kind of always used to talk about that. So I was kind of just playing around with seeing what the focus would look like if I did this, if I did that, and kind of back and forth, or what would be in focus, what would not be in focus, and so on. So well, we'll see. We'll see. So I'll probably do some. I'll have some pictures that I'm going to be taking in the aperture priority mode. Probably take some sort of auto, and I'm going to probably try even some in manual to see if I can really screw them up on my first shot. So, well,
on the other hand,
yeah. So you got.
I got a really good photo over the weekend.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah. Talk about that. That was freaking amazing.
Yeah, So like one of the things out here in Harrisburg, there's only like a few things to shoot. There's a lot of things you could shoot out here, but there's a few really iconic landmarks that you can get pictures of. And one of them is the old steel walking bridge in Harrisburg. That's like close to like 100 years old now. And it was one of the first toll bridges in the country, actually, to cross the river. And it's this steel grate bridge. It's maybe like as wide as two car, the width of two cars. And it's all like old trestles with the steel going up and down, forming triangles and everything like that, going straight across the bridge, straight across. And I was able to get a nice like photo of the snow falling. See, now what I did for this is I put the ISO.
Mm-hmm.
This is like going way out there. I put the ISO at like 400. So, and that allowed me which makes the camera more sensitive to light. Mm-hmm. So that meant I was able to get a faster shutter speed, and I was able to like freeze the snowflakes falling in motion. Right. Some of the other photos I took, you would get you would get streaks going through because the shutter speed was lower, closer to like 1/100, 1/250th of a second, and the pictures didn't come out good. But I went out there for the one picture I wanted, and I got it, and it's shooting that bridge is just awesome. It's just a really good bridge to shoot with all the lines and everything that are in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so. Yeah, it's just I'm looking at it right now. I'm admiring myself.
Sean's got he got all bright all of a sudden.
But the thing for this, right? So you for shooting a landscape, you put the aperture at 9, right? Mm-hmm. Which means everything will be in focus, but also that means everything will be super sharp in the image.
Right.
Like everything will be it'll be a really sharp image. Which is really nice. And then like the snow falling, the way the snow was falling, pretty much like you can't see the end of the bridge or across the river. You could barely see like the trees on the other side, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, do check out Sean's photos. Do check him out because it's beautiful. He just did some of the best shots at Harrisburg, man.
I try.
Yeah.
I can't wait to start printing them.
Yeah, exactly. So any chance, are you going out to the March on Our Lives in Harrisburg tomorrow?
I might. I'm thinking about it.
Yep. If you guys are out there in Harrisburg, it is it's going to be in the Capitol steps, right, at noon on Saturday. It's up there, and if you're looking for a March for Our Lives near you, you can go to marchforourlives.com, and you go way over on the right-hand tab up top. You go to sibling marches, and you can put in your postcode and things like this. So I'm going to put mine in right now, just as an example. So just around me, for example, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sibling marches. So there's, you have ones that are in Easton. You have the PA Easton March. You've got one in Allentown. You've got one in Princeton, New Jersey. You've got one in Doylestown. And I know Seth Goldstein, our guy out in Doylestown, he's going to be there interviewing people and taking some pictures out there. We've got one in Pottstown. We've got one in Norristown. We've got one in, where is this? Oh, Media, PA. We've got one in Westchester. We've got one in Audubon, New Jersey. We've got one in, obviously, Philadelphia and even in Cherry Hill. I mean, so they're all over the place. That's just around me. So you go in and you put in your, put in your zip code, and you're going to be able to find one near you. Not everybody's going to be able to make it down to Washington, D.C. That's obvious. But, frankly, if we've learned anything from this past election and the organizing that's come after it, is the importance of acting locally and being involved on the ground locally. So, show up tomorrow, folks. Show up and support these kids. So anything else for the good of the order, Sean?
Nope, that's it.
All right, man. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We shall be back next week, I believe. I have to kind of double check about this. I forgot to talk to Sean about this ahead of time. It's Good Friday next week, and I might be traveling up to Central New York. And if that's the case, we'll see if we'll see. I'll give it an update about what's going to happen. We'll have some content for you next week. It might be abbreviated, but kind of we'll see what's going on. But we wish all you well, and I hope to see some of you out there at the March for Our Lives tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm either going to be at the Doylestown or the Allentown one. We'll see how my kids are doing, frankly, is really what it comes down to. And until then, keep up the fight, everybody. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We'll talk to you next week. See ya!
Every classroom has been equipped with a 5-gallon bucket full of Riverstone. If an armed intruder attempts to gain entrance to any of our classrooms, they will face a classroom full of students armed with rocks, and they will be stoned.